Welcome to Circle of Divine, and today we have Sharon Knight to talk for us. Would you like to introduce yourself, Sharon?
Hello, I'm Sharon Knight. I'm a QHP. I've got an MA from Bath in Cultural Astronomy and Astrology, and I'm chair of the Association of Professional Astrologers International. I'm a QHP. I'm a traditional astrologer with a medieval classical background, and I've got an interest in mundane, financial, horary, of course, I mean that follows, and herbalism.
So would you like to tell us how you got into astrology originally?
When I was 16, I think that Christmas, I was given Linda Goodman's Sun Sign Astrology, and I learnt that book from cover to cover, and I thought that's what astrology was. And so for many years I'd go to parties and I'd say, well, you're a Pisces, you've got bad feet. You're a Sagittarius because you walk like this. And that was great, and indeed I got lots of drinks and had good times with that level of astrology. In return time, 29, and I was lucky. I was living in London. We still had the adult education classes going.
Who was your teacher?
My first mentor was Mike Edwards, brilliant Mike Edwards. And then Bernard Eccles, of course, because he was also teaching. Basically, I just swamped myself with astrology. I started with the faculty, completed my intermediate diploma, was at summer school so that was the year prior to taking the full diploma. And I was chatting with Ron Gwynn, I don't know if you remember Ron, and I said to him, this isn't doing it for me. This isn't what I thought astrology was about. It's not predictive, it's not specific, it's so wishy-washy. And Ron went to me, my dear, you need Olivia. And he gave me
Olivia Barclay by any chance?
Olivia Barclay. He gave me her phone number. And when I went back home, I rang her immediately. Yeah. And she said she would take me on. And I was lucky enough that I would go down and spend time with her in her cottage and taught. And I took the QHP and passed sort of relatively quickly. And through Olivia, her insistence on us supporting Project Hindsight, so this was in 89, 90. So of course I got involved with all the ARHAT stuff. So I had a lot of these medieval texts that were being translated, that were first coming in to, well, I have to say, a select few in the astrological world. Because at that time, of course, it was Liz Green, Howard Sportis, it was mostly the Jungian psychological astrology. And traditional astrology was very much the minority and very much looked down upon in those days. Yes. Because of the predictive element. Because if you're an astrologer, you do not make predictions. But if you're a traditional astrologer, you only make predictions. But now the two areas have sort of melded, they've come together. There's a lot more acknowledgement of exactly what traditional astrology can do, and indeed that's what I'm hoping to do today. One of the most important things which a lot of astrologers don't take into account is it a diurnal or nocturnal chart, which leads on to sect. Yes. So, and I think in 91 I gave a talk at the Lodge, the history talk, on sect, and again people didn't know. I mean, you do know, but I think where we live in
when was that?
That was I think 91.
Oh, right.
That long ago that I was into sect. I've got first house Saturn. You know, I like the history, I like the tradition, I like having rules to follow. And if you follow the rules, if you learn the rules, you follow the rules, you know when you can bend the rules. And it's a very easy driving manual for life.
Traditional rulers, but outer planets are secondary rulers, or how do you do it?
In mundane, I look at the outers. But in mundane, I still work predominantly with the Jupiter-Saturn conjunctions. Yeah,
and the grand mutation. And
that's what works. It's what's working for Cyprus and a lot of the EU stuff. It is the Jupiter-Saturn conjunctions. And the last one happened in 2000 in Taurus at 22 degrees. So this coming eclipse at 19 degrees and the one in November, you know, it's the powerhouse. It just, I think when Mars goes over the 22 degrees of Taurus, as he will do fairly shortly, with this coming eclipse, I think that's when we'll see some action in the mundane world. That's how they predicted. They predicted on the eclipses, they predicted on the Jupiter-Saturn cycles and the great mutations. So with the outer planets, there's no doubt that you can correlate mass events with the outer planets. But it's mass events, they're generational. Also with the ancients, they looked at the phases of the planets.
Yes.
So if you had Venus rising before the sun, and the easiest way for people to look at that is that you put the sun just below the ascendant, and you see, is Venus on the ascendant, or is she going to come up after the sun? If she's on the ascendant, she's rising before the sun, as we see it on the flat bit of paper. And traditionally she was known as Ishtar, the warrior queen. She incited war. She was quite a different Venus to the one that came behind the king, going, oh, I'm pretty, I'm beautiful, I love music, I love art. Quite a different character. And traditionally they were known as the spear bearers. The planets either side of the sun and the moon were known as spear bearers. And they were they would go in front and tell people to make way for the king or queen. And then they'd come behind, sort of gathering up all the flowers. It's with the humours, which is obviously what I'll be coming on to. 4 humours. You had the basic 4 types, which Jung had his archetypes, 4 archetypes. It all comes from traditional astrology. But it was lost. It was lost from, probably from Alan Leo, when he tried to make astrology more acceptable after his court case.
Yes.
I think that's when sort of the rot set in. And of course they didn't have available the works that we have today.
Culpeper and...
Well, I love Culpeper, laughing my socks off, because he is so funny. Now, herbalism is the forerunner of pharmaceutical, chemical medicine that we have today. Everybody healthy, if you became ill, then they would say, well, you need this herb, that herb. If you have a phlegmatic illness, as I have now, I've got a sore throat and a cold, and excess of phlegm. So I need hot drying foods. So they'd look at the age of the person and the sex of the person and prescribe accordingly. So if I were an old man and I was presenting with rheumatism or a severe cold, not just like this thing, they'd prescribe a rooster because it's a hot, dry bird. It would dry out the excess of the cold, wet fluid.
In what form would you be prescribed rooster?
Probably a live one. So you probably get sweat out the cold running around tracing the rooster. So so it goes back to Hippocrates, and we have to again remember that these are the earliest written records we have.
Colleges would you recommend?
Oh,
and any particular texts?
Oh yes. Well, Barbara's written.
Barbara Dunn.
Barbara Dunn. She's written the definitive horary textbook, but it is very dense, and you have to be dedicated to read and work through it. John Frawley, he doesn't often speak about it. He too was taught by Olivia and Mike Edwards, because he and I were in classes together. But John Frawley's books are brilliant because they're witty, they're so well, they're laughable, and I think people learn more through laughing. Lee Lehman, her book on rulerships, she wrote a book quite a few years ago, I think Traditional Astrology and Modern Living, that's very good. There are some good textbooks. Joseph Crane has written a simple primer, there's a few errors in it, but that's a very good book. How can I say all this without mentioning Ptolemy, of course? I mean, Ptolemy was, his book is straightforward, simple astrology. And there is a psychology in it, but you've got to know it to pick it up.
That would be very interesting, because I've never heard anyone say psychology in the same sentence as traditional.
Shakespeare, the characters, the melancholic, the choleric characters, were part and parcel of Elizabethan plays. And Hamlet, he he had no beard.
Yeah.
He had thin hair. He stooped. He shuffled. He what was it? You know, he had no energy. He gave up physical exercise. Typical melancholic. Everybody in the audience would have known he had a surfeit of melancholia. Same with Shylock, the Jew. Melancholia comes under Saturn, as it were, but we'll come to that later. Jews come under Saturn because it's a traditional religion. Mm-hmm. Dark, then invariably dark. They look down, they have their hands behind their back, they go, oh, woe is me. But actually, the melancholics are the most intelligent.
Prescriptions that you would give for melancholia, surely if, I don't know what prescription you would give.
You give something
you're talking
hot and
about
dry, hot and wet.
Well, yeah.
You give a sanguine food, because a melancholic is cold and dry.
Yes.
So if you wanted to lift them up, you'd give them a sanguine, an air, and it would be hot and moist. So something hot and moist.
So it's all about balancing things
balance.
up.
Vedic medicine, as it were, it's recognised by the World Health Authority. It has remained unchanged for over 3,000 years, and it works. The pharmaceutical industry has come along, and it has isolated the various components of the plants, the seeds, the roots, whatever, and found, it's got this chemical, that mineral, and they've then taken it and synthesised it. Now, the thing is, a lot of people will go and buy magnesium tablets for their nails and hair. Magnesium is found in Brazil nuts. The problem is that the DNA of the helix, as it were, inside the synthetically produced magnesium is the wrong way.
Right.
It's the opposite, goes the opposite way to it does in Brazil nuts. So our bodies can't really absorb. So a lot of these supplements that people buy, I mean, they really don't do an awful lot of good because they're synthetically produced. That chickens today have something like 50 or 60% less nutritional value than 40, 50 years ago.
Yes.
So it's all to do with the soil. It all comes back to the Gaia theory, which comes back to as above, so below, which comes back to traditional astrology.
Yes.
Because with traditional astrology, as above, so below, it's what you can see with the naked eye. And that's why the outer planets that you can't see with the naked eye don't really have a place in traditional astrology.
You give talks?
Oh yeah, I do workshops in conjunction with Robin Ray down in Sussex. We run a monthly workshop together.
And you have a website?
I have a website, www.astrologersharon.co.uk, and that's my email is astrologersharon@aol.com. Wants me to go, I'll talk, but I'll talk on traditional astrology.
Okay, it's been a pleasure having you.
Thank you, Enid.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Snell.